I think that the government enjoys a very solid majority gained at the polls, and therefore has all of the necessary democratic legitimacy. However, it would be absurd to deny that in situations of economic suffering, there is not a dent to the popularity of governments, to their credibility, and in general to their possibility of taking measures that may be painful. That doesn't mean that they can't do it, but of course that there are more difficulties along the way, some of which can be related to or can be seen in the form of attacks by the press, questioning the legitimacy, being less tolerant about any flaws that the government might have. For example, you hear on these stories about corruption. And basically what it has to do is with the financing of political parties. Under normal circumstances, you could think about changing the rules. Under present circumstances, when the population is asked to endure sacrifices, this becomes much more difficult to tolerate, and understandably there is an outcry. Spain still has an important industrial base, and it's a country that is strong in services. We tend to see Spain as a case of a burst real estate bubble, which is to a certain extent that explains to a great extent the amount or the figures of the unemployed right now. However, Spain still is a big economy. It's the fourth economy of the Eurozone, which corresponds more or less to its demographic position as well. It has worldwide top-ranking companies. For example, 7 of the top 10 in infrastructures, 3 of the top 10 in renewable energies. You have the top fashion retail company in the world is Spanish. Spain is the 8th largest car manufacturer in the world, and the 2nd in Europe. And we have top companies in many areas. I mean, perhaps it would be a surprise for you to know that 3 out of 5 flights use Spanish navigation systems. That means that there is a strength in top innovation sectors, but there's also a solid basis on biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, transport, logistics, aeronautics. I mean, there's a number of sectors, and they have there is a strong industrial base. This industrial base is not something of the past, because in some regions of Spain there has been a renewal, and there has been a firm bet for maintaining this industrial base in a context of total openness of the economy to outside competition. Now, competitiveness is also a very important thing. During the first years of the establishment of the euro, there had been a strong loss of competitiveness. From 2008 on, that tendency has been reversed, and there have been year-on-year gains on competitiveness, which has allowed Spain not just to maintain its share of world exports in goods, but to increase it by 40% in tourism, which, as I said before, is a sector that generates lots of jobs, and it's good and solid, and in international projection growing. Well, as I said before, one has to remember that, for example, it is a country that has a great deal of jobs in car manufacturing, and that's just one of the sectors. As I said before, one of the strong sectors is transportation. That includes also, for example, trains and other means, or aerospace. Traditional industries, including white line products, are still very strong in Spain, and they have opportunities for growth. And you shouldn't really minimize the role of high tech. If, for example, the high number of university graduates in Spain, just as a reminder, nearly 40% of the 25 to 34-year-old segment have a university degree. can be used for one of the sectors where there's a big expansion, which is technological small and medium enterprises. So I mean, there's also grounds for creating jobs in companies that are not necessarily large. The important thing is that there are many of them. We hope that certainly we will be getting out of this crisis, and gradually the Spanish economy will reorient itself away from excessive reliance on construction, which has been, on the one hand, an engine for growth, a growth that has been of 60% of GDP in the last 15 years, but also the main cause for the high levels of unemployment these days, reaching over 6 million people. One has to remind oneself as well that there has been a gain of about 5 million immigrants into Spain in the last years. So I mean, there's an expansion of population. Now, of course, reorienting away from construction is easier said than done. And I suppose that the task of governments, the present governments and governments to come, would be precisely to figure out exactly how to do that. Right now, that is very heavily concentrated on exports. Perhaps there's a way there, but perhaps there are other ways that need to be found. Well, first of all, I think it's important to have the right image, not to dismiss a country simply because there are some reports about very real things that are happening. Just to understand that this is only part of the story, that we are really talking about a country that has not only an enormous potential, but also a very significant reality. Then, of course, Spain is actually quite present, for example, in running some large infrastructure things in the United States, in motorways, but also in renewable energy projects. And the important thing is that to keep going along that way, just to rely on the strengths and keep cooperating. One important thing that has to be borne in mind is that Spain is housing right now about 10,000 foreign enterprises, 75 of the top 100, sorry, and that the number of projects that are initiated annually through foreign direct investments in Spain is larger than in Italy or Japan and 4 times in the Netherlands. So, I mean, important to think that this is a very fertile ground for investment that is going to be there, and that investment is going to go both ways. So facilitating that is a very important thing.